Hello there, you're about to watch the extended version of my interview with Scott Flanary, winner of The Amazing Race Season 29. This is part of my larger video about Pedro Zamora and the real world and reality television. You can find a link to that, and also links to interviews with other folks involved in the production of that show in the description. But for now, let's get to my interview with Scott.
Hi there, I'm Scott Flanary, he, him pronouns. You might have seen me on The Amazing Race Season 29 as the winner.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Do you remember? So, we're chatting a little bit about Pedro in the real world. Do you remember Pedro season 94?
I do. I was an initial fan of The Real World, so I watched the first couple of seasons live, and I remember his storyline specifically because it was one of the first times we had LGBTQ plus representation on a reality show.
Did it have an impact on you seeing him there?
Yeah, I think the impact that I had in watching someone like Pedro is, well, almost a little bit of fearfulness. Like, there are other gay people in the world, but I was not yet myself comfortable with being gay. So, is that what I might be or become once I become of age and I've become more comfortable in my skin? And I'm not quite sure that my life would parallel the one that Pedro himself has had. But then there's also that fear of the AIDS epidemic. Is me having sex with someone of the same gender going to also have me go down that road, which is extremely frightening in the 90s when you think about even Rent the musical was highlighting the meds that a lot of folks needed when they did contract the virus or HIV. And just everyone that was passing away in the gay community in the 80s and 90s, his story hit close to home in a fearful way.
So, what made you want to be on a reality show?
I have been a huge fan of what I call the big three on CBS: Survivor, Amazing Race, and Big Brother,
Mhm.
ever since they debuted in the early aughts. And the reason they drew me in as a viewer is because you got to play a game with other people in this global landscape of something that you had never seen before. So I could lie about who I am, and that would achieve success. I could be true to who I am, that could achieve success. You don't know what cards you're being dealt, and I thought that was a wonderful way to exercise my competitive spirit and my strategic thinking skills. And I thought, just put me in the line of fire, let me see if I can win.
And so, with the experience, did having a camera present and being in front of people, did that make you self-conscious, or, were you thinking about how am I going to be received?
I was just talking about this yesterday with somebody. You just imagine, viewers at home or listeners at home, imagine yourself going to a random hotel in Los Angeles, and all of a sudden, that moment on, you have a camera in your face that is no further than 3 feet away at all times. And then in my case, you also have a sound person. So they're carrying a backpack of all the equipment they need for your lavalier to be picked up. And it's wild to have these people who are strangers following you so physically close. In our show Amazing Race, they sit with you in taxis, so you're right next to the people who you don't know and who are recording you. And you surprisingly get used to it after about, I'd say, 2 or 3 days, because it just becomes normal. Like anything else in your life, when something's normal, it's no longer a sensitive piece for you. But what I will say is I was constantly thinking about how would I be perceived or edited. And as a huge fan of reality TV, I know that they can control the edit, the producers. What story are they trying to tell? And so every time I spoke, I thought about what I would say.
Wow. Did anyone advise you to be less gay? Like, was that a concern? Like, we're a little concerned about homosexuality on television. Did that ever come up?
I love this question because there's so many angles I could take my answer. The first one is when I was in casting for Amazing Race, I knew I was the gay guy. So I thought, well, who's my competition? It's the other gay men around in casting. And I would look around and, we all have different opinions on how flamboyant or gay we are. And I'd say I'm like just a touch above the middle. I'm like, I'm probably not the most extremely flamboyant person, but I'm gay. Like, it. And I was looking around and seeing these stereotypical personas, which I do understand viewers of reality TV need to quickly identify who this character is. So I understand why stereotypical behaviors might be attractive to casting folks. But I would look around and say, I don't feel like that's me. And so when I got cast, I asked, like, well, why am I the gay guy? Like, what is it about me? And the feedback I received was, well, we're betting on two things. And this was after filming, by the way. They were betting on two things. One, I was either going to be very sassy and very dramatic, which was sort of true. And then two, I was going to be an extremely social player and use my charm. And you know how everyone has that gay best friend? They thought I would play that angle, which I also did. So they
Mm.
weren't wrong.
Okay. So really, like, it worked out for you, like slotting into the gay role.
Absolutely. And when you're being interviewed for all of those stitched together interviews during episodes, those interviews happen after the action has already taken place. And the producers who are asking you questions always reframe things you get a sense of how you're probably going to be edited. And mine was always going to be the gay Harvard guy. And I'm thinking, I am so much more than who I like to sleep with and who I gave all my money to get a piece of paper for a diploma. So it is what it is. But if you have to water me down to two traits in order for me to get on a show in which I can win $500,000, by all means.
Did you ever think about for gay viewers, like having the impact that like somebody like Pedro would have? Were you thinking like I might be a gay role model?
I did think about that. I thought about it in two ways. One, I could be a gay role model by just being myself and exhibiting to other people that, yeah, I happen to be gay, but I'm also athletic. I'm also social. I'm also a very smart person. I'm also very cute. There's just so many things about me that I'd love to share. And if anyone finds an element of my story that resonates with them, all the better. Case in point, I was a huge fan of Jim Veraros on American Idol season one. He was the gay guy in the top 10. And when I was on Amazing Race, I reached out to him just to say thank you for being a positive role model for me, because you are one of the people I thought of when I went on reality television. And he and I have become online friends now, which is kind of cool.
Oh, that's lovely.
But the other thing I'll think about is I was very conscious about how I came across on TV for the general public, because we live in a society that is more accepting of LGBTQ plus folks, but we still face a lot of harassment and negativity, etc. And I thought, okay, when this is being aired, I'm going to be the subject of X number of negativity. I'm going to be talked about online. Am I okay with that? So there was a lot of calculated conversations on the show. So I remembered everything I say will be available in perpetuity. I've got to be safe. But also, I want to be perceived as a good guy, a regular guy. So even those who don't believe in homosexuality can still connect with my character.
So when it aired, what kind of reaction did you get, and how'd you handle all that attention from strangers?
Yeah, when it aired, it's no one can prepare you for the feeling of obscurity into your 15 minutes of fame. There is no rule book. And when you finish filming, CBS or the other networks, they don't give you any sort of guidance. The only thing that's usually offered to reality television reality television people is um, therapy sessions if you need them after filming. And so I say that because you're kind of experiencing this on your own. And I say surprisingly, did not receive a lot of negative backlash. They say don't read the comments. I wanted to because it was my only time I knew I would be on TV. I just wanted to see what it would be like to be perceived by people who don't even know who I am.
Hmm.
And there were only two comments, two about me being the F word, Faggot. And I thought, okay, those hurt, those hurt. But it's two out of hundreds. All the other comments were he's so patient, he's so nice to his partner, all these nice things. And I thought, I'm gonna read those comments and let those resonate right here.
So looking back on it, was it worthwhile experience?
It was absolutely a worthwhile experience. I will say if I do go back on reality television for some sort of All Stars or something else, I still think about how I'll be perceived and how I want to come across. So these elements we've spoken about today, I think are always in the back of my mind, which is not unlike being in an unfamiliar situation as a queer person trying to protect oneself.
So if folks want to check out your season, check out your work, find you online, where would you like to be found?
Yeah, I'm everywhere, including Instagram now. I'm a big guy at Scott Flanary, spelled like canary. And you can watch me on Amazing Race season 29.
Fabulous. Scott, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Nice to be here.